The clash between Nigeria's Flying Eagles and Saudi Arabia's U-20 team was one of those football encounters that went far beyond a group stage fixture. It was not merely about points or qualification scenarios, it was about pride, redemption, and the story of a team that desperately needed to remind its fans and itself of what it represents. Nigeria came into this match on the back of a disappointing loss to Norway in their opening fixture, a game that exposed defensive weaknesses, a lack of midfield control, and a worrying inability to turn chances into goals. That defeat immediately raised the stakes for the Saudi Arabia game. Lose again, and the Flying Eagles would be staring at the prospect of an early exit from a tournament in which Nigeria has a long and proud history. Draw, and the situation would become complicated, requiring calculators and permutations. But win, and suddenly hope would be rekindled, the mood would shift, and the narrative could change in their favor. From the outset, the game carried a heavy psychological burden. The players knew they could not afford another slip. The coaching crew understood that tactical discipline had to be improved. Fans back home, already voicing frustration on social media, demanded a response. Saudi Arabia, for their part, arrived with confidence, having won the Asian U-20 Championship and keen to show that football in the Gulf region is on the rise. This was not a team that was going to roll over easily. What followed was 90+ minutes of tension, drama, goals, mistakes, redemption, and ultimately, Nigerian resilience shining through at the death. The first real roar of the night came in the 10th minute when Salihu Nasaru found the net to give Nigeria the early lead. It was not just a goal, it was a release of pressure, a sigh of relief that settled nerves. Nigeria had been accused of starting games slowly, of lacking urgency, but here they looked alive from the beginning. The players celebrated with passion, knowing how important that early strike was. But in football, joy often comes laced with warning. And that warning arrived barely 11 minutes later. In the 21st minute, Amar Al-Uhabi equalized for Saudi Arabia, punishing Nigeria's backline for lapses in concentration. It was a familiar sight: defenders caught out of position, midfielders slow to track back, and the opponents exploiting space. For fans watching, the joy of the early lead gave way to frustration. The sense of déjà vu was overwhelming. Was this going to be another long night? The answer, for the moment, was no. In the 38th minute, Amos Ochosh restored Nigeria's advantage. It was not the cleanest or most beautiful goal, but it was exactly what the Flying Eagles needed, proof that they could respond when challenged. Ochosh's strike brought energy back into the team, and Nigeria went into halftime with their noses in front. For the coaching crew, it was a chance to regroup and remind the players that staying disciplined and managing the game were as important as attacking flair. For the fans, it was another roller coaster: delight at being in the lead, but anxiety about whether the team could hold it. Barely 5 minutes into the second half, however, those anxieties proved justified. In the 50th minute, Talal Haji leveled the score again for Saudi Arabia. The game was now balanced at 2-2, and Nigeria looked rattled. Defensive frailties were once again laid bare, with the team struggling to maintain structure. At this point, Saudi Arabia began to sense that Nigeria could be undone. They grew bolder, moving the ball with confidence and testing the Nigerian backline. The Flying Eagles, for their part, threw numbers forward and created chances, but they lacked composure in front of goal. By the 70th minute, Nigeria had already registered far more attempts than their opponents' 23 shots in total compared to Saudi Arabia's 11, but the wastefulness was glaring. Time ticked away, and the fear of dropping points loomed large. But football, in its cruel and beautiful way, often saves its most dramatic moments for last. As the game entered stoppage time, with nerves frayed and fans across Nigeria glued to their screens in tense silence, the Flying Eagles were awarded a penalty. It was the kind of moment that defines tournaments: one kick of the ball, one chance to snatch victory from the jaws of disappointment. Captain Daniel Bamiyi stepped up. At just 18 years old, he carried on his shoulders the weight of a nation that has come to expect greatness from its footballers. Calm, composed, and fearless, Bamiyi slotted the ball past the Saudi goalkeeper in the 94th minute. Nigeria 3, Saudi Arabia 2. The bench erupted, players jumped onto the pitch in wild celebration, and fans back home let out a roar of relief and joy. The Flying Eagles had done it. They had survived. The final whistle brought with it not just 3 points, but a psychological victory. For Nigeria, the importance of this win cannot be overstated. It means the team is still alive in the tournament, still capable of qualifying for the knockout stages, and still worthy of the belief that they can go deep. Beyond the mathematics of group standings, this was about rediscovering identity. Nigeria's youth teams have always been known for resilience, flair, and the ability to rise in moments of adversity. This game restored that belief. It showed that even when flaws are exposed, the spirit of Nigerian football never say die, fight until the last minute remains intact. But the win also carried warnings. Conceding 2 goals to Saudi Arabia, both from lapses in concentration, highlights the defensive weaknesses that must be fixed if Nigeria is to progress further. Against stronger opponents, those mistakes will be punished more severely. The midfield also needs greater control. Too often, Saudi Arabia bypassed Nigeria's middle with ease, putting pressure on the defense. And while 23 shots in a game speaks to attacking intent, the lack of clinical finishing is a problem that cannot be ignored. The Flying Eagles cannot afford to be wasteful in matches that will only get tougher from here. At the same time, the positives are undeniable. 3 different players scored for Nigeria: Nasiru, Ochosh, and Bamiyi, proving that the team has depth in attack. The ability to share the goals is an asset in tournaments where relying on one star can be risky. The mental strength to respond to 2 equalizers and still push until the end shows character. And most importantly, the players demonstrated that they are learning to handle pressure on the world stage. For young footballers, these moments of adversity often shape future careers, teaching lessons that will stay with them for life. Looking at the bigger picture, this victory is also important for Nigeria's football reputation. The world knows Nigeria as a powerhouse at youth level, but recent tournaments have raised doubts about whether the country's development system is still producing talent at the same level as before. This win sends a message: Nigerian football is still alive, still competitive, still capable of delivering drama and victory. It is also a reminder that the journey from youth football to senior stardom often begins with nights like this. The likes of Michael Obi, Kelechi Iheanacho, and Victor Osimhen all announced themselves on youth stages before becoming household names. Who knows which of the current Flying Eagles will follow that path? For the players, this game will be remembered as a turning point. For the fans, it was a roller coaster that ended in joy. For the coaching crew, it was a mixture of relief and a reminder of the work that still lies ahead. And for Nigerian football as a whole, it was proof that the spirit of the Flying Eagles, a spirit defined by fight, flair, and faith, remains unbroken. In conclusion, Nigeria's 3-2 win over Saudi Arabia was not perfect, but it was priceless. It was the kind of victory that carries meaning far beyond 3 points. It was a statement of resilience, a lifeline in a difficult tournament, and a promise that the Flying Eagles are not done yet. Yes, the defense needs tightening. Yes, the midfield needs better control. Yes, the attack must become more clinical. But if this game showed anything, it is that Nigeria remains a team to fear, not just because of talent, but because of belief. And in football, belief can carry you further than talent alone. The Flying Eagles have their wings again, and the rest of the tournament will now watch closely to see just how high they can fly.